We're going to get into it. Hello, everybody. My name is Russ. Welcome to It's the Hybrid Model that you know and love, and it has been a while. My name is Russ. This is the Russ Rants stream and the Russ Rants podcast, and I'm excited. I'm excited for a couple of reasons. Number one, it has been a long time, probably been too long since we've done a proper Russ Rants podcast recording, but here's number two, and it's a big one. One, it's the first guest we've had since the pandemic on this podcast. Huge deal. And a second part, I'm very confusing this evening, is it's my good friend. We actually had a very tight camaraderie both during the pandemic. We were kind of streaming cheerleaders for each other, and it's my good friend Raymond, formerly known or currently known as Segdad. We're going to get into that, but it's just an absolute pleasure. He's one of the most creative people I know, one of the most charismatic people I know, and also, we didn't talk about this, he's one of the most lovable people you're going to know. So I just want to point that out. So thank you, Raymond, for being a part of the Russ Rants podcast. It's an absolute pleasure to have you.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course.
It's great, man. And sorry?
No, we've known each other for a long time.
Very, very long time. And I'm kind of cheating, guys, because we can get into some of it, but we've had a lot of history before I even dabbled on Twitch. He started on, was it Facebook gaming, by the way, Ray? Or was it?
I started on Facebook gaming, yeah, and then it was so bad that I switched to Twitch.
And it's funny because I actually follow still a decent amount of creators on Facebook, and I don't think it's actually gotten any better. So we can get into that as well. But I wanted to bring Raymond here, you guys, for a couple different reasons. One, I wanted to unpack a bit of his journey, because how it started. We can actually get into that. Raymond, if you don't mind, quickly share, because I didn't want to go too far into your streaming journey, but I know that it was a decent part of some of this transition that you even recently had. Especially, we were both going pretty hard in our respective mediums during the pandemic. We were both very passionate, I feel, about the same things, like community, relationship building. So if you don't mind, just for the listener and the viewer, because this will be shot out on all podcast platforms as well, who are you? And where did you get started in kind of your, I'll call it your online journey, but if you want to brand it something different, by all means, but just the floor is yours with who you are and where you came from.
You know, I've always been, well, you know me, I always loved being in front of a crowd.
Yes.
Right? So that was never an issue. I enjoyed doing that. I think for me, when it came to streaming and stuff like that, I had been a bit through the ringer. I was looking for an outlet. I'd lost a job. You know what I mean? Like, I was just kind of looking for just an outlet, really, right? To build something that I felt was missing, right? And so what ended up happening was I had talked to my wife, and I was like, you know, I've been in marketing, kind of like I've been in marketing and graphic design and all that stuff my whole life. Always dealing with people, always doing stuff like that. And then, you know, church stuff, always had church stuff going.
Yep.
There was always that in the background or in the forefront, depending on what day it was. And I just felt that I just needed an outlet really bad to build something, to do some stuff. And so I thought, well, I'm going to try streaming. So I started streaming, and I went hard. Like, I was going, I think for 2 years. I
can attest for the effort level.
I was 5 days a week. I was between 2 and 4 hours a stream. And I actually, but when I ended up taking a break, and we can talk about why I took a break later if you want.
Yep.
But when I took the break, it wasn't too bad. Like, I wasn't averaging hundreds of viewers, but I think I was averaging between 15 and 20 viewers.
Huge deal. That's a big deal. For those that don't know, on Twitch, starting cold, without an audience, without a community, and having anything above 5 is a huge deal. So just want to commend you on that.
And it wasn't every night, but I was like, there were nights like I had one night, I'll never forget that stream. It was a December, and I had someone come into my stream, and I think I was at 300 viewers for something like a good half hour, something like that, and donations, and it was the hype train.
That's a high, man. That's huge.
Yeah, it was crazy. And so, like, there was stuff that was happening, but, you know, when I look back at it now, and, you know, hindsight's always 20/20, I think I was going too hard, right? And then trying to work and trying with family and doing all that stuff, I was very close to burning out, right? And so But my whole journey with streaming was I just wanted to build something where I could visit with people and game and do stuff like that and just have a community that I felt, there's a lot of now there is at least you can find a lot of streamers that are for lack of a better term would be on that Christian side, and it's a bit of a different thing. It's not hot tub streaming, it's hot tub and bikini streams.
Well,
It- you know,
though fascinating and interesting that would be, Ray. Yeah, I get it.
you don't have room for a hot tub in your place right now.
No, yeah. Just for clarity, really quick, guys. My basement's blown up, and I'm stuffed behind for the listeners out there. I'm stuffed behind like a sectional couch. There's toys behind me. This is not a virtual background. I'm keeping it real for everybody here, Ray. But yes, no, it's for hot tub streaming. Obviously, you didn't consider that. Now, with your journey, because again, guys, background. Ray, you had set up. You had excellent aesthetics with your OBS. You had definitely put in some investment even on your online store. You had set up a brand. And you didn't just like set up a brand and kind of run with it. You built that identity. I remember when you decided to do the sleeveless checkered look permanently.
Yes.
And I was just like, oh my gosh, Ray has gone so hard into this.
Yep.
This is amazing.
Yep.
But you went hard. I do know that during the pandemic era, it probably was easy though, maybe I'm wrong on your end, to go hard because there wasn't much we really could do during that time. But did you kind of find that did you feel like it was a window that you're like, this is it, I'm going to give it my all and this is going to take off? Or was it on a daily basis? You're like, I'm going to go 100%, but I don't know if this thing's going to take off or not.
My personality is if I'm going to do something, I'm all in.
Right.
Like it's just the way I am. No matter what. And to give you a little bit of background, before I started streaming, I had started getting up at I'm an early riser. And
Morning person.
Right before the pandemic started, I had lost my job. I think it was in October. So then I was like, okay, I need to figure out what I'm going to do here. And I didn't have a job I didn't start, so it was nearly 3 months. And I was looking for a job and stuff like that. But I was getting up in the mornings and I was doing like this, for lack of a better term, like this online devotional.
Yes, I remember that. Yes.
And I was at 5 a.m. and I was actually, it was pretty crazy because I was pretty consistent too. Like
You
it
were.
was 5 days a week, and then Nicholas started doing it with me.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And then what ended up happening is it just got too much, right, with that. And then I ended up getting a job, and then that of course changes everything now because
Yes.
now
You don't
you're
have
back
that
at
spare
work.
time. Yeah.
Exactly. And we actually continued doing it for, oh man, I think we did it because when did the pandemic started? What, March 2020?
March 2020. Yeah, it's kind
And
of
I
when
think-
everything hit the fan.
Yeah, and I think we ended up going till like the summer, Nicola and I doing that. And through all that, I was also streaming in the evenings.
Yes, you were.
Right? So I was doing stuff on Facebook in the mornings, and that the Hope Love Faith, actually we have 1,000 followers on there. We were having people come.
It was growing. Yeah.
It was growing, right? But it was I just bit off too much, right?
Sure.
And so we kind of backed. And I've been going through my own personal journey too, right, in regards to my spiritual life and stuff like that, and there was stuff I had to work through and stuff like that over the past few years. And so anyway, we decided that Nicola was like, she needed a break from doing it. She's not a morning person either.
God bless her. She looked
I'm the
great.
only morning-
She
Yeah.
was hanging on every morning I saw her, and I'm like, good job, Nicola.
Yeah, hair everywhere.
Great
cup of
job.
coffee in her
You're
hand.
up.
Yeah.
Well done. Yes.
And so I decided to concentrate on the video games.
Yep.
And stuff. And I was kind of it was just a community building thing, right? Like I was just trying to build that community. I've played video games since I was 10 years old.
You bet.
So it just seems like a natural progression, right? And we actually started building out the thing outside of SAGDAD. We started building out SAG Squad. And
That's
we
right.
started doing that, and there was about 6 members of that who all had logos. We're starting to stream, but then they all kind of went their separate ways. It kind of just ended, right? And so it wasn't. And you know what? That's just the way life is, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm trying to remember what your original question was.
No, it's fine. It's kind of what got you into this in the first place,
Yeah.
because I know everyone's journey is different. And like I said, the pandemic, in my opinion, was a catalyst for a lot of people that I knew where they were kind of like on my end, I got into streaming October 2019. I took a
Yeah.
break from the Russ Rants podcast and I was like, guys, I feel like this thing, Twitch streaming on my end, I never heard of Facebook gaming, to be honest with you, where it's just like,
Yeah.
I feel like this is something that I would love to do is interact live with people and kind of take this as an opportunity to create an online community. Whereas like when you're podcasting, you don't have that live interaction. Then the pandemic struck. And Polo is like, you're going to go crazy if you don't do something. Why don't you stream
Yep.
3 times a week, right? And so
Yep.
on your end, there was no evening events to go to. We couldn't go anywhere. So a lot of
Right.
people I know were like, I'm going hard on streaming right now. This is amazing, kind of thing. So
Yep.
I was asking you like how it started and what got you into it.
Yeah.
You know, and you kind of already answered a part of the question because having 300 plus viewers, Hype Train, for those that don't know, on Twitch or any streaming platform, when you have a bunch of followers and viewers, you can also do donations or tips, really is what they are. And you could subscribe to the channel. You can get emotes. You can get ad or commercial free viewing. That's how the platform works on its revenue. And so when a Hype Train happens, it means multiple people are subscribing or gifting to other people subscriptions and making donations in a small amount of time. So when you hit a Hype Train, it's a very big deal. And again, for small community streamers, that is rare. So on your end, that I would say that's probably one of the highs. Can you think of a specifically high moment where you're like, this is everything I wanted to do? Was that the moment? Was there a different moment that stands out to you?
It was crazy. Like, I'm not gonna lie, you're always thinking about the monetary side of it too, right? Maybe
It's
there's that one.
practical. You have to.
It's practical, right? And that was the craziest thing. Like, I made $1,000 that month.
Holy
off of that
crap.
That one stream brought in $600, right? US. And so it was just like, and so for me it was just like, wow, what's that? But then the problem is you have a high like that, but then the next couple weeks it goes back down, right?
Yes.
And like, I think the struggle with that a lot of people don't realize is that I think the average streamer on Twitch has maybe 3 viewers.
Yes. That is the average. It was about well, the top 1% have only 3 or above.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah. So for me it was kind of cool because I was in that top 1%, but it's also, it's priorities, like, right? Like I would have discussions with Nicola about it, and so what I got started was, it was like, I got to find that platform, because I was like you in the middle of the pandemic, when the pandemic started, because I think we started right around the same time.
Yep.
Right?
Yeah, you were a bit earlier than me. You were on the Facebook gaming.
Actually, I think it was September I started. You started in October. So
Yep.
I actually started that before I started the Hope Love Faith with
That's
Nicola,
right.
now that I remember.
Yep.
Because Hope Love Faith started in October or November of 2019, and I started streaming Sag Dad.
And was that weekday mornings on Facebook gaming, or was that Saturday mornings? I remember.
No, that was weekday mornings. We were streaming Hope Love Faith from 6 till 6:30 a.m. And then in the evenings, I was streaming on Twitch, my gaming, from 7 till 10 or even 11. So it was a lot. But then during the pandemic, I just needed that outlet, because I'm like, being in marketing, being in graphic design, you're always around people. And we just did this thing at my work where we did insights about your personality. And I don't know if you know the ones that go by colors.
Oh,
the red, blue, green, and yellow.
Is blue like logical thinker, calculator?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
And red is like, leave me alone, I'm trying to work, very administrative. If you're going to talk to me, get through it. Green would be, I want a little bit more calmer, stuff like that, very, very low key.
Yellow is charismatic, extrovert.
Yellow is extremely charismatic and extrovert. And
Okay.
so on our team at where I'm working now, I'm the only yellow.
Oh my gosh.
Right? Yeah.
What?
Now they have a new person they just hired, although I'm not sure he's as yellow as he thinks.
No,
anyway,
you king yellow.
so-
You got this.
So I was like, everybody else was in that red, blue, and then I'm way down here. And so for me, I just needed an outlet. That's the main reason why. To go back to answer your question, I needed an outlet. I wanted to hang out with people. We couldn't do anything together in person.
Yep.
Right? So everything was online. Right? And so for me, that was my main reason, was to have that outlet to just try to be a part of a community, build a community, and get that social interaction that I wasn't getting for 2 years with the pandemic happening.
And I guess before we go into kind of some of the harder moments, and I don't want to obviously camp there, but I do think it's important for anyone to understand a creative journey, whether you were creating online, because you also branched out, for those that don't know, you also branched out into like YouTube content. You were creating some
Yeah.
videos for people. I really love that though, to compliment you. You really tried to find that niche. You didn't try to cover this broad spectrum. You just said, hey, if you're in my demographic, so to speak, but you also are new to video games, let me educate you. And I thought that was marvelous. But regarding some of the burnout, like with any streaming or media, I find with content creation, the output required is so high to get a
Absolutely.
minimum traction. And you were going hard. When did you kind of start to realize that you were kind of past the tipping point, so to speak, where you're like, I'm not having fun, this is work? Because I remember texting you a few times, being like, how you doing, man? And you were streaming, and you're like, I'm okay. I'm tired, dude. And you know what I mean? So you're trying to be entertaining. You also genuinely love people, but you're also on fumes sometimes, right? So I don't know if you want to unpack that, but
I just, I had a conversation with somebody this week, and I don't want to offend anybody. I'm not like that. But
do it, man.
one of the things I've learned, at least in my personal opinion, is I think people throw the term burnout around really easily, and I think sometimes they're using the term burnout to replace the term lazy.
Really?
I'm not trying to offend anybody, but it's like some people say, "Well, I'm getting burned out." Well, are you, or are you just lazy?
Unpack that. What does that mean? So when you say
okay, so you have oh, this is going to ruffle feathers, especially when it comes to Twitch communities and stuff like that.
Welcome to the Restaurants Podcast. It's all right.
One of my pet peeves is I think I just pressed a button because I'm hearing an echo now. That's okay.
I'm perfectly good on my end, but you let me know if you need to adjust. Yep.
I did something here. Oh, I know what I did. There you go.
Did some reverb. That's okay. Go for it.
So one of the things that drives me crazy is, listen, I believe everybody should go after their dreams. Absolutely. Absolutely. But on Twitter, what I've noticed, a lot of streamers who are trying to make it, there's a lot of excuses to being like, I'm so tired. I streamed 3 days this week, 4 days this week. I need to take a mental health day. I have no issues with that. Absolutely not. But what bothers me is when people start asking for donations, asking for money, because they don't want to go get a job.
Sure.
They want to stream, right?
Yep.
And so for me, it's like, I look at the example I'm trying to set where I'm working. Once I did get a job, I was streaming in the mornings.
Yep.
I'd go to work.
Yep.
I'd work 9 to 5. I'd come home, make dinner, do all that stuff.
Do your prep, because it's streaming is not just clicking record, by the way, everybody.
Come down 45 minutes earlier to fight with your computer because all of a sudden your camera doesn't want to work, right? And so
cheers to that. Yep.
Yeah, and then you get everything ready, and then you're streaming. And one of the things I tried to explain to somebody is that streaming is not. It's kind of like golfing for work.
Yes.
People don't get this. Like when you golf, when I worked at the radio station, I used to have to go golfing with clients.
Yes.
It's not always fun. In fact, 90% of the time,
it's stressful.
It's not. It is, because you're paying for everything.
Yep.
You're being on your best behavior because these are clients. They need to have a good time. You're deciding if you can, well, how good can I golf, or how bad should I, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. And it's not like golfing with your friends. It's the same as streaming. It's like it's work because you have fun, but you're watching your chat. You're okay, how's my sound levels? How's the camera working? Oh my goodness, I'm dropping frames. You know what I mean? Like what's happening? So you're working the whole time. As much as you're having fun, you're still working, right?
Right.
And so I do understand the whole burnout thing. I hold that. So to get to your question is like, what had happened was this Nicola, well, Nicola, my wife, she's a good barometer for how our family is doing and stuff like that and what's happening. And we got to the point, we were having some discussions, and she could see it. She said, Raymond, she said, you're going to burn out. I have a very hard time using that term because I have been burned out before. But I also never want to be a quitter. Like I'm not going to quit. I don't, like, I'll go until I burn out. And that's a huge issue. right? So
To quickly pause there, would you
yes.
want to make sure that you clarify to people that with burnout, it's a much darker, scarier, or exhausting place? Like, what's the distinction between I'm fatigued or I'm running out of steam as opposed to I am burnt out? Is
Well,
there a big distinction?
and that's my whole point of that people use that term burned out when they're saying, "Well, I just don't want to work full time. I just want to do 3 hours a night and I'm exhausted. I need it." Well, no, I'm literally people like you can't the Twitch streamers that have made it, they're
Hmm.
pulling 16-hour days.
Yes, they are. Yep.
They absolutely 7 days a week.
Hmm.
Those are the guys who've made it,
Yep.
right? And so for me I look at that and the thing with burnout that people don't realize when you burn out, nothing matters. Nothing matters because you're so burned out, you can't think, you can't do anything. You're in this dark space where you're like it
There's no
what's the
stimulus. Nothing
there
gets
isn't
you going.
nothing gets you going, so nothing matters. But then depression starts to hit, and then with mental health stuff comes into play, it starts to affect the people around you.
Right.
And like when Nicola and I first moved to where we are now, to Lethbridge, we were burned out from living in Calgary. You live in Calgary, you know how crazy busy it can be,
Yep. Yep.
right?
It's a
And
different
so
animal. It's true.
absolutely. And so for us, I remember then I traveled for a year, and I remember a guy who I like mentored me. He really challenged me on it, right, about being burned out and stuff like that, and to make sure when you start making these things, your family is your biggest priority, right? And so for me, when it got to the point with the streaming where it was how many hours I wasn't coming back, and then I'm back in the office out of the house, and then Nicholas at some points is like, Raymond, I need you around,
Right.
right? And
Yep.
as soon as I hear that, I'm done,
Right.
because it's like as soon as my wife or my son say we need you around,
That's
I've
the
got to.
hierarchy. That's the
That's
absolute.
it right there, because they are the most important thing in my life,
Nothing else is worth it.
right?
Yep.
No, it's not. And so for me, it's like there'll be plenty of time. I'm slowly coming back now. It's been about a year and a half, and I'm slowly coming back. I'm trying to do Thursdays and Sundays, but I'm so ridiculously busy with my side hustles that all of a sudden exploded towards the middle to end of the pandemic that I can barely keep up. Like I'm working 6 days a week. I'm like 5 days at my 9 to 5, one day at my side hustle. Plus there's evenings, plus a whole new thing of creativity has just exploded in me that I had lost for probably 15 years that I
Okay.
forgot I had.
Let's go there if you want. Like what? So obviously with this, okay, really quick actually before we
Yep.
get into that chapter, you segued out. How did you find that transition where you went balls to the walls? How did your community react? How did you decide to taper it down? Was it hard? Was it a cold turkey thing? What happened to your?
Well, you don't forget through all this, I'd also launched Sag Beats,
That's right. Yeah, I
right?
used them. I love
Yeah,
Seg Beats.
and it's still going. It has 8 albums on there. Caden and I are still. It's just we had to take a pause, right? Because he went to school, and then I'm
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so in the middle of that, I'm also trying to market for Sag Beats. I'm putting stuff out in the background. I'm trying to connect with streamers. Like I had like it was crazy, right? What everything that was happening, right? And
Yes.
so I started telling my stream and that I was like, I'm gonna have to go on a break here. And I remember I think it was in the end of May of 2020.
Sure.
No, no,
2021.
2021. Yeah, it was the end of May 2021 when I said, guys, I'm gonna take the summer off. Like I'm taking June, July, and August off. I
Yep.
need to, right?
Yep.
And I gotta concentrate on some other stuff. And and so it was just a conscious thing to say, I've got to take a break. Right. And I thought the summer's a good time to do it because I want to be outside. I don't want to be in the basement.
Yep.
Right. And so it was good. It was a good summer. Things, started to happen. And then at the end of the summer, I was like, I'm not ready to come back. I'm not. Right.
I can
And
relate to that totally.
yeah. And I just thought I'm going to leave it. And I'd jump on here and there just to stay the, with, but viewers move on, followers move on, and naturally, of course, right? Like
Well, and especially if you're not going balls to the walls and not in front of their faces
absolutely,
easily, they will leave.
absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's the thing. I don't have time to make shorts for YouTube. I did make some videos for YouTube and stuff like that, some challenge, like some of those things, but it was just like I just don't have time, and I can make them, and I can do that, but it's just prioritizing, right? And
Right.
so yeah, so that was the whole thing. So for me, it was a cut it off. We're done for the summer, and then it wasn't until November last year that I came back and said, okay, I'm officially going to try to come back a couple, like once or twice a week. And I haven't been able to do that so far because I've been so busy. It's just everything is just,
Yep.
and yeah, and to answer, I don't know if they, yeah, so that's how I did it.
So that
It
was
was
the
just,
transition. Okay.
yep, yep,
You alluded to something very huge where you're like, something creatively hasn't come
hmm
alive within me
hmm
within 15 years. So what did you segue to? Like, did you need time to heal, or not heal, but like, did you need time to rest first? And you're like, okay, I just naturally feel like it's a break, not streaming and doing content. But obviously, as you alluded to earlier in the episode, you are a natural person that needs to build something, or you need
absolutely,
to keep something.
yeah,
So you've got a bunch of stuff on the side, but
yep.
what did you segue that into? What is going on in the SAG universe or the Raymond universe, whatever you're labeling it right now, you know?
It's all the Raymond universe right now. So
Okay, okay.
basically, what had happened was is after I lost that job in 2019, I got hired back at a radio station, and I don't know if you knew, I from 2013 to 2018, I worked at a radio station, and I did voiceover
I did
for
not know that.
commercials
You got a
and
great voice. It makes sense to
all over.
me.
Well, I could do impressions, right? So I was doing, yeah. So I did all that. Plus, I was a sales rep, and I was their top sales rep for like 2 years,
Okay.
right? Because I could just talk to people,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So then what happened was is I left that in 2018, went to this other job to do marketing, but then got laid off because the market fell out, and so that was in 2019, and that's when the 3 months without work, and we started the streaming stuff like that. I ended up back at the radio station right before the pandemic hit. And what
Hmm.
happens when the pandemic hits with radio, the any type of
You cut it,
all
man.
advertising's canceled,
Uh-huh.
right? So all of a sudden, it was like for 2020 and 2021, I made no money, like nothing. Like I was we were barely making it, right? So it was just like one thing to another. And then what happened was is in it was February of last year, I was just looking. Well, not till I was pretty angry about something, and I wanted a different job. So I went online and looked on Indeed.com, and there was a graphic design position
Hmm.
for a business here in Lethbridge. And so I was like, well, I can do that. I can, like, that's my background. I'm actually a graphic designer,
Okay. Okay. I was going to
right?
ask you because I know
So
you had
I
alluded
went
to
to,
that. And I was like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
I went to school for it 3 years, graphic design and art, and learned. My original thing in life was I wanted to be a comic book artist.
Oh,
And
snap.
so,
Love it.
yeah, I
Love it.
wanted to work for Todd McFarlane on Spawn, and Rob Liefeld with Deadpool. Those were my
Nice.
yeah, those were my two comics. I had the original Deadpool #1, and I gave it away for free.
No.
Yeah, I was stupid. I was only 16, so yeah,
Well,
so it is what it is.
there are no
But anyway,
regrets. We
so
move on. Yes. Okay.
yeah, so I ended up getting the job as a graphic designer, and then what ended up happening was through that they have an historic building here in town, the Post building. It's the original post office. It's 110 years old now,
Sick.
and so what the business I went to, they remodeled it, they did everything, they own the building, and then they've completely transformed it to something new and vibrant, but it's still got its they still want to keep its history.
Yep.
So during this whole thing, when they hired me, I was originally hired to do booklets for other properties, but then they're like, well, you're a graphic designer, why don't we have you do all the signage inside the building and all these things? So then all of a sudden this whole door opened up where I'm bringing them ideas, and I ended up doing these I should have sent you some pictures,
Sure.
doing these panels, like they're 5 feet, they're over boardrooms, and I would do watercolors on them and do all these things. They'd be printed, and so I did all this artwork that's in this building on 3 different levels. And down in the basement, I hand drew, like, on my iPad, then blew them up, like all these. Oh, let me see. I'll put it up to the camera.
Why not? Why not? And sorry, listeners, this just means you're gonna have to go on YouTube or Twitch if you want to see this, and that's okay.
Um,
Or you can
so
just describe it in great detail, but I don't think we do that, right? That's okay.
yeah, it's kind of, well, I'll
The
just give you
curvature, is this the font? Is this?
so this is one of the images that'll be outside the gym, and
Oh,
that's all,
sick.
and
Yes,
that's all
sir.
ink, and like so stuff like that. Like all of a sudden, I'm doing these I did this one.
From scratch? Or
No, those are what I do is I find like on Splash, they're
Yep.
all free pictures that you could use for anything.
Yeah.
Then what I do is I draw what I see,
Awesome.
and turn it into inks, right?
Awesome.
So all of a sudden this whole thing started, and now all of a sudden I'm like, I forgot I could draw. I forgot I had this whole art side in me. Russ,
Wow.
I haven't played my bass in 3 years. Like I haven't like it was just I just I basically walked away from all the artistic side of me, right? And was just
And for those that don't
concentrating.
know, Ray's a phenomenal bass player. I'm going to brag about him. Phenomenal bass player. I've had the pleasure of playing with him a few times. That dude is a different animal. Okay, so
Well,
sorry, continue.
You're quite the drummer. So
Yeah, and you
we'll
know
have-
what? I'm the same boat though, man. I haven't drummed in about 2.5 years. So
It's time. It's just time. And so I kind of walked away from it all. So then all of a sudden at this my new job, I this artist it finally clicked on me. Like it was just missing.
I love
Right?
this. This
Yeah.
fills me. This is amazing. It fuels
So
me.
and so then on top of all that, so then all of a sudden I'm doing all that, and then I started that, and then all of a sudden I had a couple businesses that I worked at the radio say, "Hey, would you help us with our
No
social
way.
media as a graphic
Yes.
designer?"
Yes.
So then I was like, "Well, yeah, of course." So then all of a sudden I'm finding, okay, well now that outlet's happening where I'm being creative with these people's social media, and now I'm being creative at work, and now I'm doing it at home, right? Like I'm doing my own art now that I have a whole idea that the whole creativity side of me. I'm not going to go into details.
Yeah, it's all right.
Media as a graphic
Yes.
designer.
Yes.
So then I was like, well, yeah, of course. So then all of a sudden I'm finding, okay, well now that outlet's happening where I'm being creative with these people's social media, and now I'm being creative at work, and now I'm doing it at home, right? Like I'm doing my own art, but it's going to be kind of like it's going to be religious and Christian, but I want it to be dark.
All right. I'm into
Right?
that. Sure.
And so I'm looking at it and I'm like, okay, okay. So I have this idea. So now in the evenings I'm working on that, and then it's like, and because it's just captured me so much, it's like I don't want to be distracted right now.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? So
Well,
if I
it's a
have time-
priority, and there's
Absolutely.
momentum, and it's doing the opposite of draining you. It's
Yes.
fueling you,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Well, and the best part is because I'm on the iPad, I can sit beside my wife on the couch and draw.
Yes. You're
while she's doing
you're still
something.
present.
Exactly, right? Instead of downstairs in my corner with the green screen up and the lights on.
And I mean, our wives can attest, unless it's an emergency or it's either really hard to try to distract or come in and
Yeah.
quickly, hey, I need to talk to you, when we're like fully set up. And like you said, you're watching your other monitor, you're watching your levels, you're engaging with chat.
Mhm.
And then, so it's you're not even close to being present. Paula has even told me, she's like, when you game with your friends or you're streaming and these headphones are on, you're gone.
Yeah.
Unless it's an emergency, it is a huge deal to try to get you to interact, right? Whereas,
Well, and I couldn't even answer a text or anything because I was using my phone as my camera.
oh my gosh,
Right? So
Yeah.
then for a year and a half, like I did a whole video on YouTube on how to set up your stream for less than $1,500, I think is what it was.
Yeah, I remember that.
I put everything on there and why it was like that. And so I set up my, like in that picture behind me, everything you see I got for $1,500.
Crazy,
Everything.
crazy.
Because I just worked. I'm Scottish, man. I worked it out. I figured it out.
Yeah, found it. I found the bargain bin, but you found the value. And like
Yeah,
you said,
so you're absolutely right. You're not distracted, right? Like, and you don't want to be distracted, but on top of that, sometimes you can't be distracted, right? Because you're just so focused.
So it's tough though, Ray, and I'll pause you here because you're such a positive and uplifting person. I do personally think that there are going to be people listening to this that have felt like they have been desperately searching out something to try to find that thing in them that makes them tick. I don't think it's even the pandemic. I think honestly society can be very demanding. It can require a lot of people, as you know, they binge Netflix or they go home and they kind of turtle up. Long day at work. I'm reading a really great business book called Traction right now where it's you got to get the right butts in the right seats. And as I read more descriptors, I feel like a lot of people I work with or have worked with are forced to do a job to pay the bills, to live the life, but it's not
Yep.
through their giftings. It's, you know, it's extroverts working in an introverted position, an introvert working in an extroverted position.
Yep.
So you go home and you're not fueling yourself. I know a lot of my friends, they feel exhausted. And
Yep.
rather than try to, like, no one's instinct is to go around being like, I need to find something that gives me passion. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to watch the latest episode of The Last of Us and then go to bed or watch 5. So what would you say to people that are like, Ray, I can't find, it's been 20 years, 10 years, 5 years, whatever. I don't find anything that gives me passion. I can't find it. I'm desperate. I've tried so many things. Now I'm just tired. Is there anything you would say to that?
I think the problem with that is I look at myself, and working with Summits has been life-changing for me, because what you just said was my entire life, because I'm always that loud person, that outgoing person,
Right.
that yellow. for
Colorful.
lack of-
You're a colorful person. Yep.
That yellow person. I'm always, there's a stigmatism that comes with that, right? And you
Sure.
end up being pigeonholed into something you're not good at, like was the radio station. I hate confrontation, but when you're in sales,
You got to
there's
be in sales,
always
Ray. You're charismatic.
there's-
You're a great people person.
but that's not me. Like,
Hmm.
I'm a people person, but I don't want to push sales. I don't want to do something, right? Like, I was good at it because I could talk. But then you go to other jobs, it's like, well, I want you to do this, but so like in my job that I'm in, they know my strengths and they know my weaknesses, and they
They don't-
sometimes ask me to operate in my weaknesses, like administration. I'm terrible at administration. I really, really am. I hate Excel. I hate I'm terrible at it. But because I'm kind of running the graphic design and the marketing department, I need to be administrative. So there is a bit of a learning that they're walking me through, and they're helping me, and but that's only probably 10% of my time. The other 90%, they're like, go crazy. We pay you to be creative.
Yes.
Be creative.
Yes.
And I'm literally just, I draw and I color all day. That's what I do. Right. And so I look at that and I think to myself,
Perfect fit.
So for me, it was like, it wasn't like, and I know exactly what you mean, because I was so drained. Like, you work and you're in this position, and that's actually, I believe, where burnout starts to happen.
Grinding
right?
it out
When
in something that you're not
you are
naturally
not
made for.
exactly, right? And so that's why you see a lot of pastors burnout, or
Yep.
you see a lot of teachers burnout,
Yep.
or something like that, because they're good at what they do, but it might not necessarily be what they're most comfortable doing.
Sure.
Where their gifting peaks. Do
Yes.
you know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, we can work on our gifting, but there's certain things we do where all of a sudden that gift peaks, and it's like, oh, that's what you were made for.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. You
So
find that
for me,
sweet spot. Totally.
exactly, right? And so for me, it's like, I think for those people who, I listen to this guy. I don't read a lot of books. I'm not if I do read, they're mostly just for me to just forget something, and I
Sure.
read an adventure novel or something like that.
Sure.
But I'm not the deep books, like the business books. I'm just I can't read those.
That's all right.
But I listen to the podcasts,
Yes.
and I can't remember his name. I can't remember who it was, but he was talking about how people are always like, so for instance, what I'm doing right now is I work from my 9 to 5. Then in the evenings I'll do my art, but then on the weekends or on Sunday I'm working on my you're always working on a side hustle.
Sure.
So people this guy was talking, and I'm probably going to get the whole thing wrong, but the guy was saying, he's like, people always want to say, well, what was that saying? You got to find your passion and then get paid really well for it.
Yep.
But a lot of times your passion isn't necessarily going to make you a lot of money.
No.
Right?
There
Like,
are
it's
countless
just-
musicians that can attest to that.
Well, there's countless
Artists.
that, like, just art in general, unless you're super lucky, is not going to pay you a lot of money.
Well, and don't get
Right?
us started on AI now also stepping into that arena.
So don't even get
yeah,
me
don't
started
worry.
on
Yeah,
that.
I know, but it's the moment you said art.
plagiarizing everywhere. Anyway, so then what he said was, is like, make your side hustle your passion.
Right.
But work your day job to pay the bills, and then find a side hustle that you love. Because if you're like, I'm in a job that I hate, well, what you should do is you concentrate, you do your 9 to 5 to be responsible, to contribute.
Pay the bills, man. Pay the bills.
And then find that thing you're passionate about in your side hustle,
Yep.
Like I was lucky enough that I'm passionate about creativity and graphic design, so it worked out. You know, one thing that happened during the pandemic that was amazing,
Hmm.
Russell, for 20 years leading up to the pandemic, when I'd go onto Indeed, there'd be nothing for graphic design jobs. Nothing. When the pandemic hit, graphic design exploded because all of a sudden business owners were like, I don't have a store anymore. I need an
I
online
need
storefront.
marketing. I need a
I need
presence.
social media.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd go on to Indeed. There'd be like 400 new jobs every day
My
and
gosh.
they're all, it was crazy. Right. So like I lucked out with that. So I have that going. But I think for those people, like for me, you also, I think, forget what you were passionate about
Yep.
because kids come, married life happens, you grow up
Or
and
you got to
stuff
pay the
starts,
bills and you
or
just
you
kind
got
of
to pay the
exist in a
bills.
job. Totally.
Exactly. And so for me, it was like I literally forgot I could draw. And then all of a sudden, it was like this iPad. I started drawing. I'm like, I completely forgot I could do this, and it just lit something in me, right? And so I think to me, I was like, look back at what if a if you're like I can't find anything to be passionate about. Well, look back and see, well, what were you passionate about before you retired?
How do you, let's just play on that phrase for everybody, but how do you forget to draw? You know what I mean? Like, because I can relate to that. I know I know what you're talking about when you say that, but like, how does that happen? Like, honestly, when you're doing
Because
your
you're
nine,
so distracted with everything else that you forget some of those things that you love doing that you were actually good at. You just forget. It just becomes, you get so caught up in the mundane, you forget about the incredible.
and then like we've talked about, you're trying to self-preserve. So the last thing you want is to
Exactly.
try to take a shot at being like, I should
Yeah.
draw tonight. Well, that's another should, and that's another thing. I just
Yeah.
want to curl up in my couch and
Yeah.
pray I fall asleep before 1 a.m. and get ready for
Yeah.
another day at work. Right?
Yeah. Well, one of the things that really helped me too is when my iPhone started saying, "Hey, you spent 12 hours on your phone this week." And I'm
Whoa.
like, oh, "Whoa.
Let's go.
What?"
Let's
And
go.
so now I've got it down to, I think, 3 hours in a total week I'm on my phone. So,
Frick.
which still to me is a lot,
Sure.
but I remember there was one that came and it was 12 hours and I'm like, "Okay, that's way too much on my phone." Right? So, but I think yeah, like I don't know how to explain it. You can draw, but you just forget, so you never do it, right? Like you get distracted.
So I guess let's try not. We don't have to go into making this too practical. This is about you, and I'm glad to have you. And again, thank you for all those listening and watching the Restaurant Stream and the
Mhm.
Restaurants podcast. Um, I guess let's go one practical step, then let's go back to your journey. If someone is really out there right now and you find that they're more on the verge, let's call it fatigue rather than burnout. Because, like you said,
Yep.
it could just be people. I mean, I know I've thrown out the phrase burnout when it's I have nothing to look forward to. Right. And that's not
Right.
necessarily burnout. That could just honestly be your resources are spent and you've got nothing that's fueling you back up. Is there a practical step you'd recommend anyone? Now, I know that you got fortunate. Like you got a job that's like,
Yeah.
and you kind of stumbled into this full-fledged now 90%
Yeah.
jet fuel of your creativity. A lot of us don't get that either. And again, just to clarify to everyone, you took years. This was
Oh,
years. This wasn't like,
yeah.
guys, I've been doing this for 25 years. Work,
No.
what is it? Love what you do and you'll never work a day in your life. And it's like,
Yeah.
I have worked millennia, right?
I have. Yeah.
You've spent
Yeah.
decades doing stuff that you just need to do to pay the bills. Is there any practical step that you would encourage? What if someone says, I don't know what my hobby is? I don't know what I would enjoy. Is there anything practical you would
Well,
tell
just
them?
try anything then.
Okay.
Like Nick and I have this discussion too. Actually, you know what you should do is ask the person you're closest to what you're good at,
There you go. That is a
right?
great idea.
Like ask that person, ask your other half, or ask your
Best
best friend, or
friends, whatever.
like ask your parents will always say, "Well, you're good at everything,"
Don't
or
listen to them. They're lying.
but yeah,
They're
they're like, "You're terrible," right? You came in last in every race. No, but like ask those people, "What am I good at?" Well, you know what? You're really really good at gardening. Okay, I look at Nicola and through the pandemic, she's always loved gardening. She's doing, but we're in Canada.
Yeah,
Like we get to garden 2
that
months a
that
year.
shuts down for what? Yes, absolutely.
But now she started to bring, as long as we keep him, as we keep it like down a little bit. She has plants in the house, so she starts doing some. She's doing gardening in the house a
I'm
little
aware
bit.
of the plant game. Yes.
Yeah, and so
Godspeed, sir.
I tease her about it, but it makes me very happy that on Saturdays
Because you
she's
know.
repotting because it's something she's good at and she loves it.
Hmm.
Right. And so I look at that and think, well, if you're a person that's listening and you're like, I don't know what I'm good at, I don't know what I'm passionate
Ask
about,
people that care
ask
about you.
ask people that know you
Yes.
very, very well.
Yes.
Right. And
Wow.
they'll tell you, oh, you're really good at that. Because I think there's things that we just forget, we're not even forget, but you just don't
You
notice
just
you're
don't
good
think
at.
about it. Yep.
Right.
Yep.
So yeah, that's what I would do.
Really good. Really good. All right. So now, obviously, as this creativity is booning up here, you're getting excited. You got this injection full of passion again. What are you wanting to build? What are you building? But what are you wanting? What, like, yeah, stuff is naturally happening right now. You're drawing a lot more and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But we also know you, and you're a builder. Are you trying to do a lot of buckshot projects, or have you filtered it down to 2 to 4, 2 to 3 that you're really
I
wanting to go after right now?
I'm always doing something.
Sure.
Um, but I'm honestly, for the first time in my life, I'm I've always gone with the flow. But let me just say, for the first time in the past 5 years, I would say that I'm actually just relaxed and I'm just gonna just relax and see what happens.
No
And
expectations, so to
there's
speak.
none. You know that I'm as a person who's with my personality, I'm always that dreamer. I'm always like,
Yep.
oh, this next thing could just be the greatest thing ever. And so for me, it's like I'm easily distracted too. So I'll start a job, really love it, but then, oh, something other shiny is happening. So I'll go to that and forget about what I was doing. So I've made a commitment with this one that it's like, no, I'm going to work this through and I'm going to do an hour of art every night. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Stuff like that. And I'm not going to just jump to a different project if this one gets a little boring. I do recognize that I can't work on the same project day in and day out
Sure.
without going crazy. So I have to switch it up.
Right.
But for me, it's like I'm not concentrating on this sounds really bad. I'm not concentrating on building anything. I'm
Hmm.
concentrating on growing something. Like that creativity in me that like I can grow this to a different level. Let's see what can happen with that. I'm not going to try to build a community. I'm not going to like to
Build
push
a
that
brand, build
or
a.
build a brand or anything like that because I think I want community around me and I think it's the community builds itself.
Hmm.
You just kind of are part of it, right? Like I actually look back and think when I was starting that I I think when a Twitch streamer says I'm building a community, I think it's wrong. The community is building him and
Hmm.
he's facilitating a community.
Sure.
Do you see what I mean?
Yep.
And so like I look at that and and so for me it was like I wasn't in charge of building anything.
Right.
I was in charge of just being a part of something
Right.
and hopefully guiding it in a direction that was healthy and keeps it growing, right? Like as a custodian of a community more than a builder of a community. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Well, it does. And I was going to ask you, do you think that that's maybe where we're experiencing some content creator fatigue? Because I personally have gone through my own journey. I took I took December and January off.
Mm-hmm.
And I hit that exact same chapter where when I said goodbye to the Rants fam, end of November, I finished my Movember campaign. It's one of my favorite times of the year. I had to make
Yep.
sure we stayed online for that. Then Christmas came. I was changing careers, and it was like this relief came off my shoulders, and
Yeah.
I paused, and I took a step back, and I thought, this isn't the way I should feel if
Right.
I'm doing this the right way. I
Yeah.
shouldn't feel like, oh, thank God, like I've hit the pause button. Now I can rest. It's
Yeah.
like, am I burning something wrong here? And only recently have I really tried. Now, to defend members of my community, there are some really great chat members
Yep.
and longtime supporters of the Rants fam where they have supported me saying, just play what you want to play, do what you want to
Yep.
do. But the problem is my personality, maybe you're similar, was like, yeah, of course, but like I don't want to fail either. Like
Exactly.
I don't want to
Yeah.
suck at this because I'm doing something I enjoy and no one else is enjoying it.
Yeah.
Right?
I've had that exact conversation with Zeke. Because
Yes.
he's like, well, just play whatever you want and just stream while you're doing
That
it.
stresses us the F out.
It does. It totally does. Because you're like, but I still want to be successful and blow it out of the water.
It-
And you know what I mean? And nobody wants to watch me play asteroids.
Right.
right? Like,
Right.
yeah.
If we're being real,
So,
right?
yeah.
So going through
Because
that,
in the end, you still want to grow that community. You still want it to get bigger. You still want to find the, you still want to have the Twitch version of successful,
that's right.
right? Is like, well, you have partner or all this other stuff, but it's like, so it's not that easy of just saying, well, just play whatever you want. Just when I see streamers say that, it's like, well, it's easy for you to say.
You're
Made
there
it. You
now.
have
Congrats.
50 million followers, so of course you can say just stream. Well, yeah,
I'm going to RuneScape for a few weeks, and you're going to go down to 2,000 viewers instead of 10.
Yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So what I've tried to do the same thing. I think we're on the same vein here, where I've really tried to slow it down, and I think you really hit something that I would want a lot of people to listen to, where it's build yourself first. And I know it can freak you out because, again, you're like, but I can't quantify that. I can't measure metrics. I'm not getting views. I'm not getting progress. This doesn't help me with my goals. But Ray and I can both assure you, dear listener, whether it's content creation, streaming, anything you want, musicianship, a side hobby that you like, gardening, for all I care. If you're doing it for the wrong reasons, you will flame out. I won't call it burnout. It'll leave. You'll go away. It won't fuel you. Whereas I can guarantee you, Ray, you doing this, the way you're pacing yourself, the way you're like open-handed. I've got no goals. I don't want by the end of the year. I've got my vision board. Let me ask you this, though. Let's see if this just gives you that trigger, though. Is there a time and place for that? Is that healthy? Or do you think you really have to go in moderation with your own motivations first? Because I see influencers all the time saying, manifest your destiny, put this on your vision board. Every year I've got a vision board, blah, blah, blah. What's the balance between...
But that's a personality thing.
Okay.
Russ.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like at my work, my boss just sent out, he's a complete red. And he sent out
the alpha type A,
vision board. Let's 3 month, 6 month, 1 year, 5 years, 10 years. That's his personality. He likes that. Now, as for like me, I love a goal line.
Sure.
I need a goal to run to.
A measure of success, a measure of progress.
Absolutely. However, I really struggle with laying out a vision because my personality is I go with the flow and I just want to be creative. And no matter what happens, I'm not in a direct line. I look at my life as my personality. I'm not in a direct line. It's a curve.
Yeah,
it's
you bet.
Going here. It's going there. I'll get to that goal.
But it's weaving.
But so I think I tried the vision board. I really did. I have a whiteboard on that wall behind. There's a green screen. Anyway, I have a whiteboard up, and it still says my weekday, the vision board, and this
followers, subs, donos, whatever.
And it actually stressed me out so hard that I had to just be like, no, I walked away from it.
Yeah, it became an eyesore.
Anything on it. And so for me, it's like, I think it comes down to your personality.
Okay.
There are people that need vision boards. There are people that need to write down their daily gratitudes. There are people that need to do that, right? They journal. They do stuff like that. It's a personality thing. My personality does not go well with vision boards or
10-year plans, 5-year plans.
It doesn't because the way I am is I'm caught up in the moment I'm in. When I'm at work, there's a goal for me to get to. This is my goal for this month. I understand goals.
Yeah.
However, my vision is to get everything out of the day I'm in.
Yep.
Right. And I know that sounds, I think it can sound like cop out.
That is your personality, though.
But I can't help it. Like
Yep.
I live my life moments to moments.
Yep.
Right. Of course I want to 10 years. Yes.
I would love to be successful.
I'm going to strive for $1 million in 10 years.
Sure.
If it happens, it happens.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
But I'm not going to write it down on a. Yeah.
Well, it's almost like the law of diminishing return, right? Which is where maybe I'm quoting the wrong law, where there's actual statistics where it's like if you set anything above 3 goals, you may achieve 1. So 12 to 10, 1. 8 to 4, 1. If it's 1 to 4, maybe 1 to 2, 1 to 3, you'll hit 1 for sure.
Yeah.
And the point was, buckshotting, spreading yourself out, not having a focus, and not having a clear goal that actually is true, it won't happen. And I think that's something I regret as well earlier in my streaming as well, is that I tried to do it the way everyone on YouTube said to do it.
Yes,
Right?
that was my
Like,
fault too.
you got to set up your setup this way. You got to do this. You got to make sure this. Have a vision board. Set up yourself.
5-minute intro.
Like, and I'm just like, and now I'm like, if I just did things my way, regardless of measuring, and guys, let's be real here. Like, we always love to have viewers. We love to have that community. However, if we didn't make that the focus and it was like at the end of the night, I want to get off being like, I am so glad I played games with X, or I'm so glad we talked about X, and that's your goal because you want to feel good about it, or I want to draw a badass picture and enjoy it with some nice music. If people come in to say hi, great. If they don't, I still drew a badass picture.
Yeah.
I feel like the target is not only more reasonable, but it's also healthy for you.
Yeah.
Potentially. I mean, it's a messy one, Ray, because I think we're both very similar, and we definitely went through some similar journeys. On my end, I'm creeping my way back into what I love, which is broadcasting, right? Yeah. And obviously with the creativity side on your end, is there, I mean, especially all that you've gone through right now, you've kind of already hit into it, that you're kind of opening your hands. What does the future look like for you? I'll give you the floor with that. What does, like, you know, whether it's a few months, few weeks, few days, what is in store for the Ray world that you're building, or just enjoying?
I honestly, I don't even know how to answer that. Like, I know, like, for the first time in my career, like, I'm talking about work, whatever job I did everything I needed, anything to feed my family.
That's right.
Right?
Responsibility.
Like, it was just the
Get it
commitment
done.
I made. I was a nurse's aide. I wiped butts for a living.
Yep.
Like, seriously. I worked with special need kids, which were awesome. Sometimes I wondered who was actually the person struggling with special needs there, because they were so brilliant.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And like, I worked as a framer, like, I did it all. But for the first time in my work career, I'm in a position where I'm like, I hope this is the last job I ever have. Right? Because I'm in my 40s. I'm going to be retiring in 20, 30 years. And I'm like, I don't want to switch to another job, because for the first time I'm in a place where it's like, they know exactly who I am, what I'm good at, and they don't expect me to be anything other than who I am.
Which is huge.
Right?
Huge.
And so for me, in regards to that, I'm so content all of a sudden in my work that I'm not even thinking about, well, where am I going to be in 5 years, 10 years, right? Because I'm like, I'm
loving it right now.
I'm loving where I am right now. And, I look at what Zeke is doing and how Nicola's doing, and we're in a good position in our work lives and stuff like that. And, inflation sucks.
Yep.
But like, it's to the point. So for me, it's like, I don't know what's going to happen, Russ, but I'm willing to see what might. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, so I would rather stream once or twice a week.
Yes.
Being fully rejuvenated and in a good mood than
exhausted.
Do
the thing.
Exactly.
Do the thing.
Right?
Yes.
And so for me, it's like, even if nobody comes in, like I did a stream the other night, 2 people there, whatever. It was fun. I don't care.
It's not why you did it.
And now I'm using OBS. I don't even have the numbers up of how many people are on there.
Wow.
I just saw it. I'm just going to stream, and if people join, they join, and if they don't, they don't.
And that's liberating. I can attest.
Exactly. And so I actually did an art stream, a test with an art stream where I was drawing on stream, and I think I may actually slide to that more because I've been enjoying it so much.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So one night maybe drawing, and then the next night, or then the other night would be gaming. So yeah, that's all. I don't know where it's going to go, but I'm happy to see what kind of ride it's going to be.
I'm proud of you. I'm honestly proud of you. And again, for those with background and context, we've known each other a long time. We were texting each other. I know that we were both watching each other's streams. We were like, "You got this, man. I'm rooting for you."
We're both so tired.
We're just like, "I'm tired too, man. Do you hate this role? Yeah, I kind of want to die. All right, cool." And but the fact that you're happy right now, because I've seen it on social media, and I'm just like, "What the hell are you doing over there?" I didn't know who you worked for. I didn't know what you were doing. You're just like, "I'm so glad." I'm like, "Cool, good for you, man." And
like,
so,
what was I think when it was at the peak of my streaming, I was streaming 30 hours a week. Plus, I was working 40 hours a week. Right? So, listen to me. When I say burnout is real, it is real. I'm not saying everybody who says I have burnout is not
Just be cautious
actually
with that
burning out.
phrase. That's
Just
all
be
we're saying.
cautious with the phrase. Because I did that and I didn't burn out
Right.
after 2 years. But I was tired.
Yes.
And that's when Nicola said, "You're gonna burn out." She was starting to see the signs.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
And so for me, it was like I lasted 2 years working 9 to 5 and then streaming 30 hours a week. Like,
unbelievable.
yeah, 20 to 30. Like, it depended on how, because I would do 4 hours Monday through Friday. No, I do 4 hours Monday through Thursday. Friday nights, I would start at 9 and go till 1 o'clock in the morning.
Yes.
And then I'd get up Saturday mornings before Nick got up, and then I would stream with 3 other people.
Yep.
On a Fortnite thing, and then I would stream Sunday evenings if I decided to.
I remember that.
It was crazy.
You were on all the time. I remember often going about my day, surviving with my kids and doing stuff and being like, is Ray still on or is he back on? And that's why I would often try to be like, hey man, how you doing? How we doing? You know, I'll wrap it up with this. I think, Ray, if anything, I think you'd give a lot of us, whether it's tryhards or high octane personalities or just people, I think in general, I think this kind of speaks to everybody because you've got a lot of people out there just hoping for something that gives them excitement, gives them life, gives them community, and other people that are high octane goal setters who want to hit those high targets. They have almost unrealistically high expectations of themselves. I think you give us hope because it wasn't like you could have even lined this up with your employer. Things worked out. And you're experiencing this freedom, this joy, where you're like, I forgot I could draw. And now I get to draw. I get to be creative. And I think on my end, the challenge I'm walking away from is maybe don't settle. And I'm not even talking about employment because you've emphasized, I want to say in a healthy way, you've said, pay your bills, put food on the table, take care of your people. I think though what it is don't settle for, I look forward to getting to my couch every day. No. I look forward to hiding after work or whatever. I don't care what it is. I've fallen into that many times where I'm like, I want to go to my room, sit down and shut the world off. And that should be a warning. That should be a warning. I would definitely say that your advice to reach out to people that care about you and say, hey, nothing right now is inspiring me. I don't need you to wow me, but like, have you observed anything that gives me joy, anything that gives me life? So on my end, Ray, I'm very grateful you were here because I think I needed to hear this. And I think a lot of people are going to need to hear, oh, maybe I don't have to have a career that's a dream job, but maybe I do need to discover what's something I should invest in as a passion project. I think that's awesome. Yeah.
Why not?
Final words from Mr. Ray. Where can we also find you on social media if you want us to find you in social media? And if not, is there just a final shout out you want to give to everybody?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. It's the Bergins Love Food.
Bergins, right? The Bergins Love Food.
Yep. And I've had a lot of funs. I'm on Facebook. I'm also on TikTok. Those ones are a little bit more...
So great. You tried
Have you seen the ones on TikTok?
You tried the Oreo challenge. I'm so jealous.
Yeah, I did. And then I've been mixing a couple different drinks just for fun on Fridays.
Yes.
Some of them are terrible. So I have another one coming out this Friday. So I've actually been enjoying that. I don't care if all my information's getting stolen off my phone. I'm having fun on TikTok. So I'm like that. I believe TikTok is Raymond Bergin also.
Okay, so, just Raymond Bergin. RaymondBergin, everybody. Raymond Bergin.
Yep.
Find him. So, he did the Oreo. Is it Oreo and mayonnaise? No, what is it? Oreo.
It's Oreo and sour cream.
Oh, thank God.
It was shocking how good it was.
It made me laugh probably too high when you're just like, I'm going to need an insulin shot at the end of this one. And Paul and I were like, oh my gosh, Ray. But as you continue to dunk and have another one, it was fantastic.
It was so good. It was so good.
And I'm jealous. I still need to go find gluten-free Oreos to do it myself. So.
Are you gluten-free?
I am gluten-free, not celiac, just intensely.
Has it helped you?
When I first got
All right,
married,
that's a conversation we can have.
it's okay. It's okay. Very quickly, it was when we got married, there was nothing but rice cakes and vegetables, and now there's all these gluten-free products, and you go
Yeah.
meat and you avoid bread, and it's been actually fantastic for me.
Nice.
It's marvelous, marvelous.
There you
Forced diet, my friend. Forced diet.
go.
So,
There you go.
everyone, thank you so much for listening. Raymond, this was great. Just so everyone knows, I messaged him like 2 days ago and just said, Ray, I would love to have you on this podcast. I haven't done an episode in months for. Would you like to? And he did. So thank you, Ray. Everyone else, be your best self. If you have any comments, questions, send it to russrantsreal@gmail.com. You can find me on socials as well. Find the Bergins Love Food and Raymond Bergin. Love y'all. Thank you very much. Ta-ta. We'll see you next episode.